of your
Yeah, oh
clients.
yeah. Yes.
Now, so what area do you cover geographically in terms of meeting people?
We do everywhere from sort of the West Island of Montreal right through to all of Ontario. So that includes places as far away as Windsor, or as far north as Sioux or Sudbury or North Bay, and then into Niagara, and of course Toronto, Barrie, London, KW, Kingston, Peterborough,
Amazing.
and of course Ottawa's our first market, so we have a huge client base here as well.
And you try and match people up within the same geographic
Yeah,
range?
I don't think people have time really, or the inclination to drive miles and miles to see someone. If we can keep them, we say an hour's radius to give me plenty of, space if I need it.
Yeah.
But if you live in Ottawa, you're going to be meeting people in Ottawa usually. If you live in Kingston, you're mostly going to be meeting people in Kingston. You may be in Brockville or Cornwall. If you're in Peterborough, you may be Belleville, Peterborough, Lindsay.
Commutable distance.
Commutable distance. And we try to get you as close as possible. In Toronto, we're able to get, if people are in Mississauga, we're usually able to keep them in Mississauga or Etobicoke. If you're in Oshawa, Whitby. If you're in Ottawa and you're in the West End, say you're in Manotick or Canada, we try to keep you in the West End as much as possible. But we do say you may be matched in Orleans, it's just the way it goes.
Did COVID have any impact on your introduction and services?
It's had a tremendous impact. We are busier than we've ever been.
Wow.
Up until the end of June, I was double over previous years.
Because people had more time to go online and explore.
Well, it's incredibly isolating. Like these, people are so, tired of being alone.
Yes.
Yet there's not anywhere you can go. You can't go to a club. You can't, for months you couldn't go to a gym.
Restaurants,
you couldn't
bars.
Go to restaurants, bars, or a party.
No.
You couldn't even go with your friends. So
No.
we stepped in and we became sort of the conduit. Why, it's funny, I have kind of a funny story about that. So I matched up a gentleman and he was really nice, but it was, I don't know if you remember the time frame, but I remember it exactly because I think I was doing the Outdoor Adventure Travel Show in Toronto that weekend. Or I did it the weekend before. So we went and did it and it was tremendously successful. Came home and we were turning around to do the Whole Life Expo the next weekend in Toronto.
Yes.
So we got there and of course it was shut down before it started.
Oh my God.
So I came back and I matched this gentleman with a lovely girl who I thought they'd really, really connect well with. And he said, I think Barbara sounds just amazing, but I have these two elderly parents and I'm going to be sort of getting them groceries and getting them everything they need. And he said, I just can't, they have health concerns. I just can't take the risk of going in there and taking something into them and dying or something. And he said, would it be okay, do you think, if I just talked to her over the phone? So they ended up talking on the phone and then Zooming.
Oh, neat.
So they had this whole romance that was all Zoom all the time. So what they would do is he would research a recipe. He would send her the recipe. He would leave a bottle of wine that paired nicely with the recipe on her steps.
Oh, that's so nice.
I know.
Isn't that great?
And then they'd sit and they'd put their laptops on their islands and they'd make this amazing meal together. And they'd have the wine with it and paired with it and they'd spend hours talking. And he phoned me in July, the first time we reopened, and he said, June or July, and he said, Linda, he said, I said, oh, how are you? How's it going? He said, I'm absolutely terrified. He said, because I've met this woman who I'm totally in love with. He said, I feel like I can tell her anything. Like Barbara is just the most sympathetic, understanding, interesting, fascinating person I've ever met. And I've never met her. So he said, what happens if we meet next week and I'm not in love with her? It's been a big fake. Oh. And I said, well,
C'est la vie.
Well, I said, you just spent a delightful 3 months with somebody and you pass the time.
Right.
And if it doesn't, maybe it'll work out. And
enjoy some wonderful wine and some wonderful conversations, some meals.
Anyway, they're still together. 18 months later.
Oh, this is lovely.
Really happy.
That's very satisfying. Have you attended any weddings of the people that you've met?
I have, but I did that for years. But the reality is people get married on the weekends. And I work constantly as it is.
My goodness
So
me.
going to a wedding on the weekend is not my
No,
preferred
of
thing
course,
anymore.
no.
We had 2 people last week, 2 couples that called in and said they're getting married, and I wish them all the best, but I
Oh,
don't.
how brilliant, that's lovely.
And a lot of people also, there's the confidentiality aspect. They don't
Oh, yeah.
necessarily want anybody knowing they had to use a matchmaker,
No,
right?
exactly, yeah.
Mm.
What's the hardest part of you putting people together?
I think the hardest part for me is that I take it home and I'll lie in bed at night and I'll think about, you know, that person. Like we don't have 100% success. If I had 100% success, I would be able to sleep at night with no problem.
Yeah.
But I lay in bed at night, you know, thinking to myself, well, I took that person's money and I feel a huge obligation that they come out of this with a good outcome.
Yeah.
And so it's a huge responsibility, and I think for me that's the hardest part about being a matchmaker is that what I feel like is my integrity is really important to me, and I can't always tell because sometimes I'll take somebody on as a client and I'll think in my head, I'll have this little voice behind me saying, I don't know if you should take your money. I'm not sure if it's a good idea. I think maybe you should send away. And I do send away a large number of people that I know right off the bat I can't match.
Yes, yes.
So it's funny because I have that voice sometimes, and those are the people that end up getting matched really fast. And then I have somebody sit down with, and I think, oh my God, you're so brilliant and articulate and interesting. You've led this fascinating life. And then they end up being really hard to match.
Yes.
So
and
it's never what
standards
you
are
think.
part of it, right? I mean,
Yes.
as you get older, what happens to people's idea of meeting somebody? Does it change? Like, do they get tougher in their criteria for meeting somebody?
I think that people are less rigid as they age to some extent, but you still want, you know, if you've been married to somebody who's articulate and interesting and has a good sense of humor, you're not going to compromise in that. Like, you're not going to take somebody on who's less than that.
Yeah.
But sometimes people that are younger have these ideas that, oh, I need somebody with a PhD who's 6'4", who's da-da-da, you know, and you have to realize 6'4" is like maybe 1%, maybe less than 1% of the population. PhDs are a very, 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 very small percentage of the population, and women these days tend to have them more often than men do.
Yes, of course, things have changed so much, right?
So, you know, you really need to realize when you're choosing things, choose things that are going to be important in the long term, like somebody who adores you, someone who puts your needs first, someone who has time to spend with you, someone who's happy.
Nice. Maybe has a sense of humor.
A good sense of humor.
Yes,
yeah.
that's darn important.
Yeah.
Really, I thank you so much for coming today and being part of the seniority show. And I'm sure a lot of people, if they want to get in touch with you, where do they go? How do they find you?
So we have an excellent website, mistyriverintro's.com.
Okay.
We have a local number, 613-257-3531. We also have a toll-free number on our website, so if you're outside of Ottawa, you can use our toll-free number. We also have a talk feature on our website, so if you're not quite ready to pick up the phone but you have questions, you can go on there and it's an actual person that's talking to you.
That's great.
And you should be aware that I'm happy to do a free consultation with you. And if you decide, you know, after the consultation that you're not interested, that's fine. I'm not a high-pressure salesperson, and I always like to make sure that everybody I take on, there's people for them. So if I sit down with someone and I don't have enough people for them on the books, that I can match them regularly, which usually means every week, then I don't take them as a client.
Wow, that's complete honesty and openness. So once again, thank you so much for being here, and I've learned a lot, and I think what you do is a very, very important service and just hugely interesting, so thank you.